Hey TPE, this is Matt Hunt here, and as you'll notice, I am back with a new video series, and as you'll also notice, for the first time in one of my videos, you can actually see me here. I thought I would experiment a little bit and put myself on the webcam up here, a bit like a Twitch stream, I guess. So the reason for that is that I'm actually doing a live sweat video series, and this, I believe, is the first live sweat series I've done for TPE. Until now, I had sort of found live sweats to be a little bit difficult in terms of delivering the right kind of educational content, but I think the main reason why I wanted to do one is because I wanted to cover some material relating to something that's actually really hard to do in a retrospective kind of a way. I wanted to look at some knockout tournaments, some progressive KOs and regular KOs. So what I'm going to be doing is playing as many of those tournaments as I can, basically on the screen that you see here alongside regular tournaments. I'm going to pretty much just look for whatever's playing on any site. I play on 4 sites at the moment. That's Stars, Full Tilt, Party Poker, and 888. And I believe 888 is the only one that doesn't yet have progressive KOs or, well, I think it does have some KOs, but I don't know if it has the progressive ones. I'm not sure. But anyway, good. That's my next tournament just popped up. So I'm actually kind of spreading the buy-ins out here. I'm basically playing every KO that I can find, including this random little $5, $300 guaranteed progressive KO on Full Tilt, just because I want to really give myself an opportunity to show you some of the dynamics that go into these progressive KOs and introduce these concepts that are going to be important for us to understand how these work. So we're going to stick to 4 tables on this screen, and I'm going to have some other tables on my other screen. You'll probably see me looking to one side regularly on the webcam there to check out the other screen. But those tables are just going to be my regular tables. And hopefully we will be able to keep this screen, full of progressive KOs and KOs. But if we can't, then we'll move some regular tournaments over. It's no big deal. So let's get started. We are on break right now. It's Thursday, the 31st of March, and I believe this video is going to go out on about the 29th of April. So I'm recording this about a month ahead of whenever you're watching it, maybe a bit more than that. And as far as general situation, it's a Thursday. I tend to play most Thursdays. It tends to be one of my regular grinding days, and it's not the greatest day for tournaments, but it's not bad. It's fairly easy to find regular sort of stuff on the standard Stars schedule and the schedule on other sites to get into to play. So I don't really have any issue finding games to play, and yeah, it's nice to just grind on a weekday and try to make some profit before that weekend, and make sure that we're not always relying on Sundays for the profit that we're making. So to give you a bit of an introduction here before I start going into discussing the hands that I'm actually playing right now, the progressive KO dynamic that we're really going to be focusing on here is evaluating the importance of the bounties. Now, a lot of people make a lot of mistakes as far as evaluating the bounties and how important they really are. And the reason I think for that is because it's very difficult to come up with a metric that actually allows us to sort of judge how important the bounties really are in a lot of circumstances. And what I want to do is try to get you guys accustomed to actually thinking in those terms in game and using that metric for yourself. I just noticed that this one actually up here is not a KO tournament, but never mind. We will move a KO in there as soon as we can. Now, the thing that we need to bear in mind here is that we're dealing with really an ICM concept when we think about bounties, because we're thinking about the amount of impact on our overall ROI it's going to have to grab a bounty, as opposed to thinking about cashing in the tournament. Sorry, 1 second. I've just got to make a couple of decisions here. I think this ace queen versus a 3-barrel from a guy I don't know is probably going to be a fold. It's close. It's very close, but I'm going to fold. This is definitely a get it in spot. So reason I'm getting it in here, this guy's overcalled, which makes sense here. King, jack, jack, and we hold. Nice. Okay, and we do not hold over here. Never mind. So yeah, as far as the dynamic goes of these KOs, we're going to be going pretty hard for the KO. But as far as how hard exactly we're going to be going, it really depends on the relationship between the KO pool and the regular prize pool. So if we look at this random $5 here, just as an example, we can see that if we look at the lobby, the regular pool is $310 and the bounty pool is $370. So immediately we can tell that because there's more money in the bounty pool than there is in the regular pool, there is probably going to be more of an emphasis, or slightly more of an emphasis anyway, placed on bounties in this tournament. So we should be trying slightly harder to get bounties than we are to actually win the tournament. And that's, I think, a big mistake that a lot of people make. A lot of people assume that winning the tournament is the be-all and end-all in every single case. And that's not really true. I think there are some cases where that's true. Regular KOs, where the KO is only a small percentage of the buy-in, that's still true to a certain extent. But in many other types, it's definitely not. Now, this is an interesting spot with the Queen 10 suited down here, and I'm going to do something specific as a result of the desire to pick up this guy's KO. I'm going to shove all in. The reason being that I have this guy covered, and if I do hit my flush here and make the flush and knock him out, regardless of what he has, then it's going to have a huge benefit here. So I'm up against queens, but this is a pretty good spot for me. Spade? No. Okay, never mind. So we did not pick up a bounty there, but I would have check shoved any flush draw there, even against a strong range, because if we look at the relationship again between the bounties and the regular prize pool in this tournament, this bounty builder, it's very much in favor of the bounties here. So what we should be doing is considering that if we look, prize pool, okay, no, the regular pool is actually bigger. Okay, that's surprising. I had originally thought that the bounty builders here were a little bit more bounty heavy, but regardless, that's still the same logic that I used there, just still applies. So what we're doing in terms of calculating the impact of the bounties is we're actually looking at the bounties as a representation of ICM EV, and we're looking at how much each bounty corresponds to in terms of chips. So the situation there with this guy having his $4 bounty in the pot, obviously it wasn't quite a clear-cut situation because it wasn't an all-in and I had to call it. I had obviously some fold equity and everything there. But situation there was he had $4 in the bounty pool that was basically in the pot because it was fairly obvious once he bet pot there, he wasn't going to fold. And that $4, because of the nature of this bounty builder, I guess actually that's the reason why. That's the reason why they're basically even here. It's because buy-in is $4, bounty is $4, of course. That's why it's not like a progressive super KO. It's just a regular bounty builder. So the logic there basically is that when the $4 in the bounty is the same as the $4 for a buy-in, you're paying that $4 buy-in into the main prize pool in exchange for getting your 3K starting stack. So effectively $4 corresponds to 3K in chips in ICM at the beginning of this tournament. So what you want to be considering is that when there is a bounty in the pot, I'm going to get it all in here because 5 big blinds, king 10 off seems reasonable. When there's a bounty in the pot, you effectively are looking at a pot that is inflated by several thousand chips every time. Oh, looks like we're going to lose. Oh, no, maybe not. Let's see if we hold. We do hold. Okay, nice. Nice little suck out to begin the day. So what we're looking at is a situation, as I mentioned, where the extra chips that are in the pot are going to drastically change what we see, what we perceive to be correct calling ranges and shoving ranges and all of those things. So we're going to really have to reevaluate our standards as far as the ranges that we get into certain pots with. I'm going to get the 9s in here as well. Sadly, nobody's bounty is at risk, but I do expect this guy to call me off wider with my bounty being at stake here. So I would expect him to call with basically his whole range. There we go. He reshoves. Let's see if we can get it in against him here. We get it in against kings and jack 8. Okay. Oops, probably shouldn't have folded the queen 9 there. Didn't notice. Okay, never mind. So we actually bust that bounty builder, which is a bit of a shame because that was the main bounty tournament that we were focusing on. But never mind. I'm just going to fire something else up. Let me see what we've got as options. I'm just going to fire up the big 5 on PokerStars. And instead of having that one on this screen, I'm going to move that one over to the other screen and bring back the 109 5K on Party Poker. There we go. So that's sorted out the tables. So looking at the dynamics of a progressive KO or of a tournament where bounties are particularly important, you're going to see that there are many instances where we have to adapt the way we play if there's even a possibility of a bounty being involved, especially when somebody has a very high bounty on them. If it's a progressive KO, if somebody's built up a bounty that is significantly higher than average, like let's say somebody's built up a bounty that accounts for, a reasonable number of buy-ins, you might find that by the time you get halfway through a tournament, some guys have bounties on them that are, sort of 5 buy-ins, 6 buy-ins. That $8 tournament that we just busted, it's not that difficult for somebody to get a $20 bounty built up pretty quickly there. And, in comparison to the amount that we're actually putting in the prize pool, $20 is pretty good. I'm probably going to have to get it in here. Jack 9, short stack pot. Don't have many chips left. Oh, okay. Well, we still have some equity. Nope, we bust. Okay, never mind. So, I'm going to get rid of that one. That was just a random $25. This one, I think we probably have to c-bet this flop. It's a fairly static flop, I guess. So it favors us as the pre-flop raiser. I'm going to get rid of that lobby because we don't need that anymore. If he does anything except fold here, we're just going to give up. Okay, we're giving up. Probably just going to check back here. If I hit a jack or a 9, I'm going to be good sometimes. So I do have some equity here. And we hit basically the worst card in the deck. Okay, so now we've got these two full tilt tournaments. The little tiny progressive KO over here, or over here rather, and then we've got the Mama Said knock you out, the $25 up here. So let's see if we can figure out how we're going to respond to these tournaments and cater to the environment that we find ourselves in here. I'm just trying to see on my lobbies whether there's any other KO tournaments that we can hop in right now. Don't think so. The next KO I can see is in about 35 minutes time on Stars. It's a $5 turbo. So I'm actually going to bring over one tournament from my other screen and just sort of stick to the same number of tournaments that I have right now. I'm going to bring over what am I going to bring over? 55 4K. So I don't want to, I have 7 tables up right now, and I think the 8th table was a bit of a challenge there as far as keeping up with the explanations. So I'm going to stick to 6 or 7, I think, for most of this session, or at least for most of the portion that I'm going to be recording. And we shall see how we get on with that. We defend the big blind against a small blind raise here, and we flop pretty well. So I'm going to bet. If he check raises, I'm probably going to get it in. Don't expect him to check raise for value much here on a board like this. Yeah, I mean we have 2 overcards and an open ender here. It's sort of tough to see. Us not having that much equity. I think I'm going to get it in. I think he's going to fold some portion of the time. He can have like ace 4 or something. Oh, can't see. Jack 4. Okay. Wow. Huh. Jack 4 of clubs holds. So we're about to bust this 109 as well. This queen deuce. I'm going to call one more and then fold the river probably. So it's been a pretty unlucky start to the day, but that's no big deal. I suppose technically we did get it in bad there with 2 overcards and an open ender against Jack High. So I can't really complain about losing. I guess we lost that pot. Yeah, I think we did. Okay, so I wouldn't always flat pocket 5s here, and I wouldn't always I probably wouldn't ever really 3-bet it, but with this guy being quite deep and the potential for, if this guy overcalls, I might be able to get his bounty, so I'm going to call here to try to get him to enter the pot as well. Definitely going to be doing a lot of things differently as far as pre-flop goes, just with the intent of generating situations where we might be able to pick up a bounty. As soon as there's somebody involved in the hand that you have covered, you definitely have to change your approach, especially if that person has a big bounty. Like this guy here, $3 bounty in comparison to this buy-in here is pretty big. So I'm going to, well, if it had folded to me there, I would have raised the button, and I think I probably would have called his 15 big blind shove there, even with 10-7 off. This guy's got $2.50, so that's theoretically about $3, I think, just based on what the buy-ins are. I'm going to fold that one 10-7 because there's no real guarantee that if I VPIP there, I'm actually going to be able to get anywhere close to getting him all in. So we did bust the 109 down there. So I'm gonna Am I going to stick with? Yeah, I'm going to stick with 6 tables for the time being. So we've now got the 11 rebuy coming over from stars onto this screen. So 6 tables is a few less tables than I would usually play, but it should give us a good opportunity to concentrate on these low stakes bounty tournaments and really dig into some of the strategy involved in those. And obviously, if there are any more bounty tournaments popping up on any of the sites that I'm playing on, I'm going to hop in those as much as I can. So we'll stick with what we've got for now. The next one I can see, I think, is, oh wait, okay. So we've got an all-in of 6,700 here, and it gets to me. Now it's 6,700 to call. 6,700 is 2 and a bit starting stacks, which means it's well, 125, I believe, is the starting stack is 250. Yeah, okay, so it's $2.50 that we pay to get 3K in chips. So this is worth about $5 something. Plus, okay. Think this is going to be a fold because he's only got a starting bounty there, and I'm not sure I quite did the math right in my head there. 125 basically it's unclear on Full Tilt. They don't label it very well. The 125 is in the bounty here, but it says each knockout minimum 250. So it's sort of confusing. The buy-in says 460 plus 40 cents. So what I'm thinking is that the buy-in is 460 total, and it doesn't specify how much goes into the bounty and how much doesn't there. But I would think that 125 is out of that 460 goes into the bounty, and that would leave $3.35 in the regular prize pool. So I believe that's how it works here, but it's sort of tough to figure it out because they don't label it very well. So what we've got there is if $1.25 is the starting bounty, and that's about 35 to 40% of what we put into the prize pool. Let's see, this is see, now I'm getting confused again because I've just seen regular pool 310, bounty pool 370. So theoretically the bounties should be more important. I think what might be going on is that the amount here listed in the bounty is actually it's what you get if you bust them, and not the way it's labeled on stars. So if you look at how it's labeled on stars, the amount that's labeled there, you get half of that when you bust them and half goes into your bounty. Whereas with these, I'm pretty sure the amount on the label is what you actually get, and then the same amount again goes into your bounty. So I believe we're actually looking at basically doubling all these numbers to calculate it, to calculate what we need. This is becoming more more tricky than I expected. Making this video. So if we think about this guy's shove there, in terms of how much he was actually shoving for, I'm pretty sure I probably actually should have called with the Jack 9 suited, because he's shoving effectively $2.50 if the labeling system on Full Tilt is what I think it is. Okay, now we are going to have to try to go for this guy's bounty, so I'm just going to shove this river. I want to try to make sure he calls me with a 10 or with a straight of some kind. And if we can get his bounty, that's a pretty good spot for us because it's $3, which is a pretty good portion of the buy-in. Never mind. Okay, so you might wonder why I am putting myself in spots where I'm sort of thinking about things in terms of me getting the whole bounty instead of just calculating half of the bounty that's going to go into my bankroll and half of the bounty that's going to go into my bounty itself. The reason is I'm actually going to shove here because I want his bounty as well. The reason is that when we have the possibility of actually getting the bounty ourselves back by winning the tournament, it sort of doubles in value, if you see what I mean. I'm actually going to shove Queen 3 suited here as well because I want one of these guys to call and give me a bounty. So the fact that we have the possibility of actually winning the tournament and getting our own bounty back means that every addition that we make to our own bounty, every sort of player that we bust, Jack 3 is just too weak to call here, even with this guy's bounty in play. We're in a spot where if we give ourselves the opportunity to win the tournament, then all of a sudden, every bounty that we picked up along the way is now one that we can kind of pick up again because we get to retain what's in our own bounty. So we do have to, at least to some extent, when we get deep in a tournament, focus on winning, because winning is very important. These tournaments are extremely top heavy in terms of how they actually end up paying out once you get to that point. But we, at the same time, need to be taking into account the fact that getting to the final table itself doesn't necessarily have as much value as simply busting a bunch of people. So what you're actually going to find sometimes is you can put yourself or get yourself in situations. Okay, this is nice. Just going to bet quite small here to get it all in with him as often as possible. What you're going to find is a lot of situations where the oh, he's just called. People play weird in these little $5 tournaments, I guess. I'm just going to bet again. The reason I'm opening here is just to get one of these guys' bounties. That's the only reason. So, okay, hopefully we win this one. Yay, good job us. So, see, our bounty's gone up to $3.44 now. So essentially, the $3 that he had there, we took half of that. No, yeah, we took half of that. I don't know. This is getting really confusing the way Full Tilt is labeling it, because that thing in the lobby is not very clear, the way it lists the buy-ins. But anyway, we will make do. We will do what we can to counter the fact that they've poorly labeled everything. So the situation that happens there is that there's so much EV attached to winning the tournament that we have to focus on winning. But as far as getting to the final table goes, when we bust a bunch of people, we actually can. I mean, I've played KO tournaments like these before where ace queen. I'm gonna get this one in, king queen against this wide opening guy. Ace queen. I feel like he's probably gonna lead a lot with like. I'm just gonna fold. It's a weird, unpredictable line from this guy, and I feel like he might bomb the river there. So yeah, what I was saying was we can actually sort of lock up 8th place money sometimes, or like even like 5th place money with 20 people left, or lock up 15th place money with 60 people left or something like that. And if we can do that, then that is such a big increase in our EV in that tournament that we don't even really necessarily need to worry about getting to the final table. So the bounties start out very, very important, and they do get less important, but then there's this sort of contradictory factor where, if we are able to actually win, we get that extra like massive bonus of picking up our own bounty. So it is in your interest to pick up as many bounties as you can throughout the tournament, obviously, but it's also not a bad thing to be taking high variance spots in order to get to those bounties, because with a tournament that is essentially, it's not winner take all, but it's pretty close as far as tournament structures go. You want to be giving yourself the best possible chance of winning that tournament, because there's so much more value attached to winning than there is getting 2nd or 3rd or 4th. So high variance spots are not a big deal in these tournaments. You certainly don't need to shy away from them. And in a lot of situations when the right kind of a bounty is at stake, you certainly will find that you might actually want to sort of start seeking out high variance spots. Where are we here? Ace 4. Okay. I'm going to call that off. Not ideal, but no, we missed. Okay, never mind. I'm going to 3-bet here the ace jack, just because if I can generate a situation here where, oh wait, I don't have him covered. Never mind. It's still a pretty good spot to 3-bet. He's probably going to flat me too wide, so I'm getting some decent value there. I have this guy covered, and this guy has me covered. I'm going to speculate here because this guy's going to overcall like 100% of the time. So being able to potentially hit a flop and like bust this guy is a very, very valuable thing. I guess I just fold now. Not a lot to do on a queen 9-4 rainbow there. Okay, so things are going reasonably fast at the moment. I apologize if it's a little much to digest, but we'll try to slow things down a little bit. Okay, king 8-4. Okay, this guy's bounty, pretty much whoever tries to get this one, we're gonna be, you know, reshoving or something. Okay, so we don't have this guy covered anymore, but I think it's reasonable that if we just reshove here, I think he's actually going to call off quite wide. In fact, he should be calling off quite wide because we have a pretty decent bounty on our head at this point, and it makes sense for him to call. So I'm going to shove. I wouldn't ordinarily do this, obviously. And if he does fold, then we have the bonus of being able to get all in against this guy, but unfortunately we don't pick up his bounty. So that's a bit of a shame. This is probably a fold. Going for a thin value bet on the river there with the 9s. Yeah, it's a huge raise. I'm just going to fold. So it's like that's another dynamic that goes on in these tournaments, really, that we have to be aware of, and that we sort of flipped the dynamic around a little bit there, in that ace queen spot, in that if this guy is sort of even somewhat paying attention to the bounties, I think his calling range is going to get wider there when we just reship, because he gets to, you know, potentially bust us, and therefore in terms of chip value, you know, we want to get it in against the widest range possible. So and we also we don't necessarily have to be afraid of high variance spots, as I mentioned. So we're okay just getting called by a lot of hands there, with ace queen suited. So I actually prefer just shipping there to making a regular 3-bet. I think if I had made a regular 3-bet to like 8K or something, I think we would have been in a weird situation where like he probably would have just flatted quite often, and then all of a sudden it's like way harder for us to actually get all in against him, which is not to our benefit. So we just want to get all in there, and you know, if we're gonna play a big pot, if we're gonna try to go for value, we might as well have the potential to also pick up the bounty of the short stack, and you know, keep things to our benefit there. Just had a weird hand on another table where I flopped trip jacks, was up against a better trip jacks, and then chopped it on the turn. The 7-3 is an easy fold there. So as the day goes on, we are going to be able to include some more interesting KO tournaments. I would hope we're not going to just stick to this $5 and $25 KO tournaments. We're going to be hopefully hopping in the $215 one that starts in about an hour or so, and we've got a few others in there as well that we can hop in. So looking at this one, actually, so he is reshoving. We can't fold ace king suited anyway here. Okay, good. It's good news. So we don't quite get to bust him. Ooh, wow. So this guy wins and we chop. So we don't even chop up his bounty. That's sick. What a run out. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit quickly about this Mama Said Knock You Out one, because I didn't actually address this. This is a slightly more standard format of KO. We can see that the regular pool is about almost twice the size of the bounty pool here. So it's $23 plus 2. So with $6 in the bounty for each player, it's also not a progressive, which means that we don't actually build up our bounty by eliminating people. We simply have to take the $17 that is remaining in the prize pool after we take out the $6 bounties for each player, and $17 is going to buy the 3K starting stack, which means that the okay, let's see if anyone's going to try. Not sure about this one. This is really close. So this guy's all in for $2.50, which is going to be an extra several thousand into the pot, probably about an extra 6,000. So there's actually about 40,000 in here, but this guy is covering us by about 8K. So there's about 32,000. So the effective pot is about 32K, and we need about we're getting about 1.6, 1.7 to 1. This is very close, but considering this guy is playing like 36-7 or something, 32-7 over 31 hands, I'm going to fold. And he has ace-10. That's kind of brutal. That was really close. I'm not really sure about that one. It was kind of hard to do the math there in terms of the effective pot and then like subtracting the amount by which he covers me. And so I had the opportunity to get his bounty, but even though this guy's range was wider, like this guy covers me, and so there's a bit of an extra consideration there insofar as like if I put myself at risk, obviously I have much less of a chance to win the tournament. So by doing that, I And oh, okay, so now this guy, all right, let me just 3-bet this hand. And this guy is all in for a pretty big bounty. It's $4. So I am actually going to reshove the Jack 9 offsuit here. Wait, no, actually, should I? So this guy is probably going to overcall me pretty wide. So I'm going to fold. Jack 9 suited, I probably would have gone with there. I guess seeing him get it in with ace 10 off here against this guy makes me think that this guy is at least somewhat aware of the fact that the bounties are significant in these tournaments. And so when I have a $3 bounty and I go all in here and he has me covered, I expect him to call off pretty wide. If he folds here, then this is just going to completely defy everything that I thought. Okay. Now I hate my fold in the ace queen hand, because it's kind of obvious from that this guy doesn't actually have much of a, well, actually, no, sorry. I like my fold a little bit more in the ace queen hand, but I hate my fold in the jack, the Jack 9 off hand. Reason being that this guy is clearly not really very bounty aware, because if he was, he would have called with any 2 cards against that shove there. And so if he's not bounty aware, that means the reason why he got it in with the ace 10 in that first hand was just purely because he's a fish. So that actually means that he was probably not very likely to overcall me there with the jack when I had the Jack 9. He probably wasn't aware of the kind of bounty dynamics that are going on there. This guy gets it in 6 big blinds. I think I'm just going to call here. I don't really want to ISO. Maybe I could ISO. So he's got 3. He's got about, yeah, that's about 6K going out extra into the pot. So, okay, yeah, I'm gonna re-raise. If this guy reshoves on me, I'm gonna fold. But if this guy, okay, there we go. Jack 8. Let's see if we can hit. Nope. Nope. Okay, bit of a shame. So we missed that one. We didn't pick up the bounty. But yeah, it's a tricky business. You know, it's a tricky business trying to predict how aware people are of bounties and how aware they're not. I think probably one thing I was guilty of in both those spots, the ace queen and the Jack 9, is assuming or giving this guy more credit than he probably deserved. Oh, this is a snap call. Nope. King deuce against ace 8. Ace or an 8. Nope. Okay. So we don't pick up this guy's bounty either. And now, yeah, sorry, I just finished that previous thought. I was probably giving this guy too much credit, basically, for knowing the significance of the bounties. Now I'm going to shove here. My shoving range here would actually be slightly tighter than usual. The reason being that I would expect people to call me slightly wider when I shove here in a bounty tournament, because obviously the bounty's at risk. So what happens there to shoving ranges is that your value hands, oh, we do get called. Let's see if we can hit. Yeah, there we go. So we actually pick up his bounty. That's nice. So the dynamic that's at work there in these specific types of tournaments is that people are going to call you wider when you shove. Let me just see if I want to call here. Yeah, I guess I call. So people are going to call you wider when you shove, which means that your value hands that you shove increase in profitability, and your bluff hands decrease, because if you're shoving like an 8-9 suited or something, all of a sudden you're actually probably going to get called by a lot of hands that are king high, queen high type stuff, which you don't do so well against. This is an easy 3-barrel against this guy. Oh, he folds. Wow. Very surprised he folded on the river there. I'm guessing he had like a weak king and he was just convinced I had an ace. In terms of that river spot there, like if he was a better player, then I would expect him to call with most of his range there, just because I'm putting myself at risk and he had the opportunity to pick up the bounty. So with that in mind, I think it's important for him to be calling off with a lot of his range there. I mean, I think a lot of his check calling down range is like reasonably strong kings, like king, queen, king, jack in that spot. I'm not shocked he folded those, because I would assume he just put me on an ace, but certainly any ace whatsoever, I wouldn't expect him to fold there. And okay, sorry, I'm in a big spot on the other table. This guy is okay. To check this guy's 4-bet stat. 4-bet. Fold to 4-bet. No. Oh, I fold, I guess. That was awkward. Sorry, now back to this hand. I'm going to c-bet, yeah. It's a fairly blank board that he's not going to hit very much. Yeah, there we go. So the hand on the other table, there was a hand where the big blind was sitting out, and I had 3-bet somebody with ace-3 suited, and he came over the top and 4-bet me, and I was considering 5-bet jamming because it was a reg that's reasonably aggressive, but he probably wasn't quite aggressive enough for me to give him credit for too many 4-bet bluffs there, so I decided to ditch it. Anyway, ace-6 we're defending, and we'll just check folding. So I think I've kind of explained most of the dynamics here as far as the ones that we're going to be bearing in mind for the majority of the time playing in these KO tournaments. But there may be some more stuff that comes up. Certainly there will be stuff regarding things like river spots and turn spots where we have the potential of getting all in and seeing a situation where somebody is going to be kind of like that spot with him up here, actually, when we 3-barreled the ace-queen. Like, we're going to see some spots where people are more willing to get it all in with some of the weaker parts of their value range, just because we don't have to be bluffing so much for them to be profitable doing that because of the bounties. Okay, I need to take a breath for a second. My protein shake there. Had a session with my personal trainer earlier on. Just getting a protein shake in me. Banana and avocado is my favorite. I'm just going to rip on this guy here. He probably is not going to call me as wide as he should be. He should be calling pretty wide. 23 big blinds, pocket fives against a kind of fishy guy, I think is fine. Oh, this guy overcalls, so that's nice. Hopefully he has ace king. Oh, wow, that's brutal. That's really brutal. I guess I don't hate his overcall, because theoretically speaking, with both our bounties at risk, I guess he kind of has to overcall. But it really sucks to be up against aces with fives when someone else has the other 2 5s. So that one sucked. Getting it in with the king 10 is fairly obvious here. Yeah, anyway, my protein shake here that you can see, banana and avocado. I've been working with my personal trainer earlier today. Need some protein to recover from the intense workout that I did that's left my hamstrings in kind of a mess. This is a bit of a diversion, I guess, but exercise is really important for anybody who spends a lot of time at a computer playing poker. If you look at all of the best poker players in the world, if you picked like the top 100 poker players in the world, like you look at them, like all of them are in good physical shape. Like there's very few people out there who look like the kind of guy who spends all of his time sitting around at a computer or sitting around at a poker table. And that's no coincidence. You know, these guys and women as well have worked very hard on being able to sustain the poker lifestyle while traveling and all of that stuff without, just getting really fat. So yeah, if you're a serious poker player who doesn't take exercise seriously, then that's a leak in your game. I consider it I consider anything that you do away from the table that harms your ROI just as important as anything that you might do at the table that harms your ROI. So to me, not exercising is a leak in your poker game. And I think that's something that people need to take seriously, because if they don't, a lot of people are going to find themselves in situations where they're unable to play long sessions. They're struggling to really get the most out of their game. They're not able to put in the right kind of volume and a lot of things like that. So it tends to be very, very important to make sure that exercise is a part of your regime and your daily lifestyle as a poker player, just simply as a way to keep yourself sharp and prevent the game from getting on top of you. Let me see if I can fire something else up. Maybe we got like a 109 here here on Party Poker. Yeah, another Party Poker 109 is firing up now, so we'll get that one coming up. Defending the ace-9 suited against this guy here seems like a pretty weak player with a fairly wide range, so I think it's fine to defend even against the 3x there. So we've got 10k starting stack here. There's some of the 109s and even the 22s on Party Poker. They've actually recently, just like this week, changed to a 30k starting stack. So those ones are great, but they don't have it in this one, I guess. Probably going to have to check fold that one, I think. Sort of moderately tempted to just check shove there, but don't have a lot of equity when called, and ace 9 actually kind of blocks some of his bet folding range, so I don't really want to do that. Okay, pocket sevens, we get 3-bet here. It's an easy fold. Don't really have any kind of read on this guy that would lead me to expect him to 3-bet me light. Fold the king 10 down there as well. Sixes down here is going to be an interesting spot. It's probably not a great spot to flat even in position here, just because I'm pretty short. Marco Moraes is a reg, I believe. I have 250 odd hands on him, so I'm assuming he's a reg. Fold the queen 10 there. Yeah, I was looking at my database recently, and I'm not making that much money flatting small pairs in spots like this. So in fact, there's some of them where I'm losing, so I'm just going to fold it. It's a bit awkward, but I think folding is probably better than calling there, and I think 3-betting is probably not great either, since we don't block anything really important. It's worth noting that in spots like that, when you have a hand like sixes, it's not just that you don't have blockers. You actually have like reverse blockers, which means that you make it slightly more likely that your opponent or any of the opponents behind you are going to actually have strong hands. So if I come into a pot with 5-6 suited, for example, then it's a lot less likely that my opponent has pocket sixes or pocket fives. And if their range is tight to begin with, and sixes and fives are the bottom of their opening range, that actually shifts their range slightly towards being weighted in favor of the stronger parts of it. So you do have to bear in mind that, you know, there's not really any such thing as a hand which isn't either a blocker or a reverse blocker. You know, every hand that you have blocks something, and recognizing, you know, what's blocked by your hand and what's not is a key part of being able to identify your opponent's ranges accurately. So just looking at what we've got coming up now, the next KO tournament is in 3 minutes time. So I am actually going to load that one up and move something else to the other screen when it pops up. It's just a regular $5.40 KO turbo event. So it's nothing special. I don't actually play a lot of turbos these days. I try to avoid them. I think my ROI is significantly higher in regular speed tournaments, and I think almost everybody's ROI is higher in regular speed tournaments because turbos are pretty tough to get a high ROI in. So if you're out there and you're playing a ton of turbos, it's probably not a great idea. If you're like sort of playing 50% turbos or whatever. Shark Scope can show you your ratio of turbos, so I would definitely recommend taking a look at that. And if it's anywhere more than about 20%, I would say try to reduce it. Mine I think for this year is about something like 7%, maybe even less than that. Definitely don't play too many turbos. Only really at the beginning of my, at the end of my sessions do I play turbos. I'll make it about 12:45. I like that. This guy's going to overcall almost always here, so I'm going to peel the 5-4 suited, which is not something I would always do. That's a bad flop. Don't really have anybody covered here, but I do feel like people are going to throw chips around fairly easily in some of these low stakes tournaments, so don't really have too much of an issue with some speculative hands here when we know that limper's not going to re-raise very much at all, if ever. Very easy spot to get in jacks here, obviously. Not sure I recognize this guy. Oh, okay, interesting flat. What are we going to do? I think that's a good bet sizing, just under half, 44%. I'm going to raise this one up as well, 415. You'll notice I have my auto bet buttons set at 22, 44, 66, and 88%. I think those are pretty good distributions of sizings. I've got small ones, big ones. Nope, snap call. Lose to ace queen. Win against ace queen, sorry. There we go. Make quads. Always nice to make quads early on in the day. So this guy raises our c-bet quite big. He's fairly shallow. I would expect him to raise at least some frequency here with king, queen, ace, queen, perhaps. And I certainly don't think he has that many combos that we're behind at this point. So I'm just going to get it in. We have the ace of hearts as well, just in case we need it. Okay, 5-4. And we hold. So that's nice. Win a pot immediately. We 3-bet this guy, cutoff versus button. I'm just going to bet call here. Okay. Well, I was going to bet call there just because he was going to check shove most of his flush draws. On a board like that, don't think it's a great spot to just check back ace king because there's a lot of turn cards which are a bit uncomfortable and he can just bet and we have to fold. Oh, there we go. There's the turbo. Not going to flat here when I don't have these guys covered. Move this 55 over and blow this one up a little bit. So this is a pretty straightforward KO tournament. There's no progressive element or anything like that. We're just looking at, thankfully Stars gives us a good breakdown. So it's $4 into the prize pool, $1 into the bounty pool, 40 cents rake. So essentially a bounty is worth 1/5 of what the actual prize pool is worth. And with that, it means that our 3K starting stack is worth $4. And so our $1 bounty basically is going to be worth, what's that going to be worth? 750 chips. So there's no progressive element, obviously, like I said. So when we have somebody in an all-in spot here, we just add 750 chips to the pot. And as you can probably imagine, as we go through the tournament, that's going to become less and less important. I'm going to barrel again here because I think it's a decent spot for it. I think with him in the big blind, he certainly has some hands which are going to fold to a second barrel here. Some 4-5, some ace-3, ace-deuce. Okay, check raises. So we're just going to ditch this one. 5 of spades isn't much of an out against his check raising range. It's a pretty good out against his check calling range because I don't expect him to check call a flush there, but I certainly don't expect him to ever check raise with, well, not ever, but I don't expect him to check raise with many hands that are 5 of spades would be good against, put it that way. I'm going to check here with the ace queen. I have the ace of clubs, so I'm not really too worried about there being a decent percentage of flush draws in his range. He bets big. Not sure he would really do this with a 10. He's bet almost half my stack, so I think it's a check shove or fold spot, and I definitely think it's a check shove. I'll try to get called by any ace. Ace jack. Wow, he just folds. Okay. I'm guessing he might have had like a queen jack sort of hand there. I obviously had a blocker to a queen there, so I wasn't thinking it was going to happen too much that he would have queen jack. F Torres opens. He's a reg. Not sure what I think of him. Reasonably decent, I guess. But I'm going to shove the pocket eights there. Fairly easy. Definitely expect him to have at least some raids folds on that stack size. Yep, there we go. Queens in the 11 rebuy. So that's nice. Radzio is a reg. Radzio is a good reg. Tag him. I don't know why, but some of my player tags seem to be disappearing on Stars recently. I don't know if any of you guys have had that problem, but I did have a ton of players tagged as regs, including Torres. I'm going to tag him as unknown because I don't know exactly how good he is. If any of you guys read my recent article about player notes or taking notes on your opponents, oh, okay, this is an interesting spot. He's 3-betting versus under the gun. This guy opens quite wide under the gun so far. He's opened a couple of times. I'm just going to 4-bet, I think, and probably call it off. Yeah, I guess I have to call it off. It's a bit awkward. It's the bottom of my 4-bet calling range, I think, but don't think I can fold to either of these guys. I certainly, against this stack size, I expect this guy to 3-bet his jacks, maybe his 10s, maybe some of his ace queens, obviously his ace kings. So if this guy reshoves and then this guy snaps, I might think about folding here, but if only one of them gets it in, it's an easy call. Looks like this guy's at the bottom of his range. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he folded like ace king off or jacks here. Oh. Well, we're getting better than 2-1 now, so we're gonna call if this guy folds. Ugh. Okay, good. Okay, so he was really thinking about it with ace king off, but we win. It's pretty good. And now we have tons of chips in this one. So that's pretty cool. We're in good shape there. Let me just grab some more of my shake. So hopefully you guys can see the webcam fairly clearly. I don't know if it's really adding a great deal to the recording, but it's nice touch. I think it's a little bit more personal. It's nice for me to be able to sort of be seen by you guys, I guess. You may notice in the background here, I have my own little corner of my living room here that's dedicated to my grind station. I've got my my sort of daily schedule here. You might see a big, I don't know if it's going to show up on the webcam, but it's just a big board with a piece of paper that has a lot of crosses on it as I cross out each day. I tend to try to keep pretty well on top of my schedule, because with a lot of coaching work and TP work and Pocket Fives articles that I write and individual coaching and all of the other stuff that I do alongside trying to grind 3 to 4 sessions a week, you know, it gets hard to keep track of it all. So I try to stay on top of things with my schedule. And you'll probably see my big Marvel Comics poster as well, a wall hanger. I'm a huge nerd, unashamed nerd when it comes to comic books, things like that. So if any of you guys want to comment with who your favorite Marvel hero is, go ahead. I will defend Spider-Man to the death. Anyway, let's see if we can play some hands and finish up this part of the recording. We're going to go about 5 more minutes until the next break, and then we're just going to wrap it up and head straight into part 2 for the next hour. I'm going to 3-bet the ace-3 suited here. I think it's a pretty good spot for it. We need to obviously have some 3-bets in our range in this position, and even though we're not 3-betting a ton for value at this stack depth, I think in those spots where you're not 3-betting a lot for value, you only really need to 3-bet some of the weak suited aces to balance, and that's usually enough. Jack 8-3, that actually hits his flat calling range reasonably well, so I'm not going to c-bet. I'm just going to check back and take some of the equity that I have with my bottom pair and 1 overcard. If he bets now, I'm going to call 1 and then probably fold the river. I think he can certainly bet with some flush draws and missed hands. Yep, let's call 1. I'm going to check fold the ace-4 suited there. It's an interesting river card. Not sure what I'm going to do here. I think it hits his range to some extent in that, I would expect him to have at least some pretty decent value hands here, like some queen jacks, maybe some 9-10 in there. Don't think he has enough bluffs really, so I'm going to fold. I block, well, I guess I block the ace of clubs. I don't block the ace of diamonds. I suppose I could have tried to raise there because I do block ace queen. But I think a lot of his betting range there is stronger than ace queen, so I don't feel like it's a great spot to try to get him off something like that. Itchy nose for some reason. Trials of a poker player. Anyway, where are we in the Mama Said Knock You Out? We are about 45 big blinds. It's pretty good. I'll fold here. We have jacks in the 22 deep stack. It's funny. There's a lot of interesting hands going on in this other tournament where I haven't got it on the screen. I'm just going to get it in with jacks over here. See if we win this one. And we do. Nice. Okay. I'm going to check call here with ace-3. It's a bit of a weird check call, but it's kind of one of those spots where, especially in a KO where we're basically at starting stack, I feel like people are going to be a little bit looser, so might have some opportunities to bust him if I pick up a 5. I'm going to check raise here now as well because he's showing so much weakness that... Okay, so he called pretty quickly. His range here is looking quite a bit like a weak king to me here. He might have some flush draws in there, but ultimately I don't think he has enough, so I'm just going to bomb this river fairly big and try to get some folds. Wow, okay, king 8. Okay, so he did have a weak king, but he happened to pair up on the river. Never mind. I think I did a reasonable job of repping a flush there, though. So, what's going on with my nose today? I get allergies, that's probably it. All right, so The nines, it's fairly easy raise here. I don't know why this guy's limping in. He's probably just a fairly weak player. This guy limping behind him as well. Not expecting him to be crushing it. Don't really know too much about him, but he's Russian. Limping a little bit here, 17-12. Doesn't seem too aggressive, so not going to be too concerned about playing pots against him. And that's a very, very good flop. I can't really think of too many better flops for a pair of nines that don't involve a nine. So we're going to barrel. We're going to bet, obviously, for some pretty solid value. Not going to bet too big, just because I want to still have a chance of getting called by ace high. So I don't want to bet, like, I don't want to go with that 66% of pot sizing. I think 44% is fine. This guy does, I suppose, theoretically have pocket fives and pocket threes in his range. Wow. I'm just going to assume he has a lot of hands in here that are worse than nines, because it's just such a weird play. I'm going to call. Yeah, okay. That's the kind of hand that I was hoping he would turn up with. All right, there we go. So, yeah, that just never, it's really hard to put someone on a range when they do something weird like that, but it didn't feel even slightly like the kind of thing that he would do with a hand that's better than nines, like tens plus, or a three or pocket fives on that board, or even quads. Like, just don't see him doing anything like that with those hands. So I think we're in good shape there with the nines. Tend to like to try to pick up chips just before a break. So I was thinking about 3-betting this guy, but 8-5 off is just a terrible hand for it. So looks like we're coming up to the break. So that's going to be it for part 1. So join me again in part 2. We're going to try to go for about 6 parts, and hopefully we can crush this bounty tournament and this one. And we will also see in part 2 the $215 bounty builder is going to pop up. So that should be definitely a lot more intense, a lot more interesting. So talk to you soon, guys. Thanks.